Right, so before I start this workout I've chosen, just a little run through of what my setup is. It was a lot more difficult than I thought to actually set it all up. Mainly getting all of the bike and all of me into shot, and to get the audio levels right, which still may not be right, but there's all things to iron out as I go along. But yeah, I've got my Wahoo kicker that I've had for about getting on for 2 years now. I think I got that maybe 2 or 3 months after the last time I was told I was in remission. It served me well, it really has. I've got a lot of miles in on it. And it's connected to my BMC team machine, which has also served me really well. I probably haven't treated it quite as well as I should have done, but at the moment it's nice and clean because it got a well-deserved scrub after Sunday's ride. I got this pure one-piece carbon saddle, which I managed to get as a bargain purchase, £20, from Zeus during kind of mid-autumn flash sale. I think they just had like 5 left and wanted to get rid of all of them, but actually amazingly comfortable. It's really good. I've got my standard 2 litres of water. Like I said before, my voice box, my throat, my mouth, back of my throat, my palate, my gums, everything still hurts and is still, well, basically my saliva glands still aren't working, so I have to take a sip every minute or two, wash my mouth out, and just my turbo sessions last as long as the water does. I'm not really drinking because I'm dehydrated, I'm just drinking to keep my mouth wet, and it's really difficult to keep on cycling or doing anything really. Like I said, even sleeping, you get a dry mouth, you wake up in the night and you feel like you've had kind of fire ants walking around in your mouth for an hour biting you. It's kind of the same on the bike, but when you're out of breath, really sweaty, tired, kind of wavering already, and looking for any excuse to stop, it's just one more hurdle in the way, and it's been the bane of the last 2 months worth of training as I kind of recovered from the stem cell transplant. So the rest of the setup is my trusty old Virgin Active towel and extra thick padded, I think it's the 2.5mm lizard skin fluoro, or as I call it, winter edition visibility bar tape. That's already unraveling. Fantastic. I had this fan 10, maybe even 11 years now, and it's still keeping me cool during turbo sessions, which is awesome. I've got my 49-inch TV. Looks fancy, it's actually a budget one, but it really does the job. Couldn't ask any more from it. And over here we have my headphones for recording audio that is, well, for when I'm not on the bike. And I've got my PC screen for basically recording the video side of things while I'm on the bike. So that is capturing that. And this, my trusty little Garmin Verb, is going to be recording this. So as you can see, it's not the most simple setup, and I'm sure it's just standard, well, not standard, but it's typical for what most video bloggers and other YouTubers are kind of used to. But yeah, it's a total baptism of fire for me. I wasn't expecting to have 6 different devices, or well, more like 7 or 8 different devices attached, having to work in sync with each other. But with any luck, I've got it right. Right, after a few technical issues and basically far more work than I expected to get everything set up, I have now finally picked a decent workout that involves a good section of recovery, which should be good after kind of Sunday's rather heavy ride, and then the rest of it seems to be 20-minute blocks of just under threshold kind of levels with another 15 minutes between each, which seems like it's going to be just enough of a test, but still kind of an endurance level workout. As you can see, I don't really look anything like I do in real life, but hey ho, I guess that's part of the fun of the virtual world. Green bike, yellow top, and I guess the beard's right, sort of. Don't have those glasses, I don't have any hair, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, crazy workout selected. Let's get it on. And here we go, first bit of this workout. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of teething problems to get through in this and the next couple of sections that I make. Already got a dry mouth. That's ridiculous. And that's predictable. Failed the first section already because I was faffing around. Yeah, I've got no experience really of making any sort of digital content. Never recorded Zwift. Never recorded anything other than a tiny bit of kind of gaming, like PC gaming, just using some old games, just to see what the deal was, just to see how it was done. Still don't really have any idea how it's done, to be fair. Okay, so rather annoyingly, I can't actually use the Zwift companion app at the same time as using the Verb app. I don't think that's the Zwift problem. I've heard this Zwift mobile app is just notoriously awful. It's got a solid 3 out of 5 on the Play Store, and I think that's probably not even justified. I'd give it maybe a 1.5 out of 5. Sometimes, given the kind of whole reliability of the Garmin Verb, it's just not really. None of it's really reliable enough. The settings are bloody awful. A number of times I've been out for a ride out to, say, Windsor, and thought I'd been recording a load of little clips of footage. It basically came back, I got home, I opened up the SD card on my PC, and there were 30 or 40 5-second clips. Basically not been picking up some stupid setting configuration. It was not picking up GPS, and also set up to only record while moving, and it worked out basically only it takes it 5 seconds to work out that it's not moving. So you press record, it takes 5 seconds of footage, and then basically shuts off again. And once you've come back from like a 2-hour ride, thinking you've got a load of good clips to make a little compilation, just get home and you've got maybe 40 seconds out of the 20 or 30 minutes you thought you captured. Not that I've done that for a while, but yeah, actually I need to backtrack on that. I haven't made digital content with commentary or any sort of proper editing for. I've recorded stuff on the Verb, and basically just added like a Verb overlay of all the power and cadence, distance, and a little map overlay, just showing the data from that part of a ride, and then uploaded it. At some point I'll find my favourite from one of the mornings I recorded something in Richmond Park. I think I came up against, it was one of the Onyx RT riders back when I was very strong last year. I think I'd done 3/4 of a lap. When I looked at what he'd done on Strava, he was already 2 or 3 laps in, and we were neck and neck for the whole lap, and he carried on after me after I peeled off to go to work. Very, very tough competition. But I'll find that at some point. I think it's like 310 watts for well over 15-20 minutes. And all before breakfast. I have no idea what he was doing before me, but that's probably exactly the same as he'd been doing, just without the tiny little edge of competition going to push him on. But there was no beating him. We were neck and neck, and he obviously could have gone on for another lap. I couldn't. But there's no such thing as things to look back on with regret. It's just something to work towards again, and being able to do a whole lap, like 17-18 minutes at 300 watts, it doesn't seem that far off now. Not nearly as well. It looked impossible a couple of months ago. But after the ride from Sunday, where I was absolutely destroyed by my 3 other clubmates that came along. One of them is the 100-mile British TT record holder, if I'm not mistaken. She is incredibly strong. And then this other guy has been doing a lot of training at Herne Hill Velodrome. It's become a pretty formidable track rider, and there was no keeping up with these guys. Well, kept up with them until the return leg. They felt a bit of tailwind. I felt a bit destroyed, and I eventually observed the 3 times off the back and out rule. I felt like dropping off the back permanently after the second time. I got dropped up the hill after a quick coffee break, regrouped a little bit, tucked myself back in, with the first hint of a slight downhill, and they just went into full beast mode. Oh my god, talking at 240 is more difficult than I remember. Damn. Whew. Yeah, this whole dry mouth thing is... it's a whole combination of things. Well, there are a whole combination of things from radiotherapy that have been making riding very difficult recently. I was expecting kind of instant side effects that would just kind of be full on for a couple of months and then fade out. There are almost no side effects apart from a bit of pain until about the time I had my stem cell transplant. So I had the side effects of the stem cell transplant combined with the, well, it overlapped completely with the radiotherapy side effects. And at the moment I have the most bizarre feeling if I tip my head forward, right in the back of my neck. It feels as if my spinal cord's stretching. One person suggested it could be mild sciatica, but similar to, but I doubt it's the same. But I get this tingling and kind of very slight numbness all the way down to my bum, and it makes my legs kind of feel a little bit weaker as well. So it's obviously something I do need to get looked at if it doesn't ease off. But it's the same reason my legs have started getting really big again, but there's no sign of the power that should accompany the size. Totally disproportionate. I can only imagine that's down to nerve damage, which could be linked to the numbness in my neck. But I'm far less worried about that. If the nerve damage goes eventually, it doesn't matter. As long as I can carry on building my legs up. As soon as the nerve damage recovers, the strength will pick up with any luck. Far more worried about my saliva glands and the potential long-term or even permanent damage they've had. Oh god. I've got to practice talking at 3 and a bit watts per kilo more often. This is pretty difficult. I think it's something you have to practice. And this is just the easy part of the workout. Those two 1-minute blocks at 240 are just warm-ups. I'm a lot more worried about those 2 minutes at 220 coming up soon. And I've now got the added paranoia of not just getting a very dry mouth, but if I get unhappy with this workout at any point, I can't switch to the companion workout and pause it or skip a segment because it will crash my camera. Thanks, Garmin. Oh god. Okay, I'm being silly now. 150 isn't good. Anyone that's used a kicker or direct drive turbo before, this isn't something I've seen noticed or commented on anywhere on the internet actually. No video blogs. I'm not sure even DC Rainmaker or GP Llama have picked up on it, for those who know who those two legends are. But if you're doing stuff in ERG mode, stick in your small ring on the front and the biggest ring on the back as if you're doing a hill climb, and the turbo will be as quiet as your chain is. It's almost unnoticeable. I get a tiny bit of clicking because my rear hanger, or my hanger, is very slightly bent, so the chain's kind of skipping on one of the sprockets, so you get that little bit of ticking. But I think the only kind of sound sound level I can liken this to is a very, very quiet microwave. It's that kind of, there's no like rasping or high pitched whine, a little kind of hum. And since I've realised what was making it go quiet, I've just stuck to it ever since. And I do most of my workouts in ERG mode now. Surprisingly enough, any complaints I got from my next door neighbours and neighbour downstairs, completely gone. Strange that. You can even do a 1,000 watt sprint in the small ring, and it still stays under 50 decibels. Now, I might have been rambling quite a lot in the first part of the video, and at this point I haven't even edited the footage out in the park. But I think it's only been 5 days since I got my PET scan results, and I don't think any of it's set in yet at all. I've got a lot of pretty confusing thoughts and just a lot of information to take in, and a lot of things I've put to one side for the last 3 or 4 months, maybe even longer. And there's probably even things I meant to think about and meant to work out in my mind way before that. But I didn't think I could afford to, in case there were kind of unforeseen psychological consequences. Just basically had to do whatever I could to keep my mind kind of focused. And yeah, if any of the stuff I was rambling on about earlier doesn't make much sense, I mean that's the whole reason behind doing this series of videos, which could just be ongoing, depending on how much stuff I kind of clear up in my mind. But yeah, primary goal, I guess, is just to work out what I think about everything, how I've done, what I could do better if I end up in this situation again that I've had for the last 6 or 7 months. I never documented any of what I've been through in 2012, 2013 and 2015. Apart from a few Facebook posts with a photo and a cheeky comment of defiance and being a bit of a dick, sticking my finger up at this bloody illness. Just nothing. I've got some texts on an old phone from friends that kind of reminded me of the occasional obscure detail, but I don't want to make that mistake this time. This is so much, I think this could be so much better than actually writing in a diary or making some sort of journal. Thinking out loud is always it's been my kind of default. Second goal of this, I guess, is, well, I've cycled for about 9-10 years now, apart from the occasional month off here and there, particularly for things like the stem cell transplant and the 2 Christmases straight after treatment finished, the last 2 times. I've never stopped cycling, not once. I've had several days off in a row. I've even had a few weeks off in a row. But well, you can see on Strava. When I first got my diagnosis, I think I'd been off the bike for a week because I was really depressed. I had a lot of January off because of symptoms. Thanks to the tumour growing out of the inside face of my throat that my doctors were quite happy to ignore. But apart from that, during chemo I was cycling to and from the day unit now and then. I cycled to radiotherapy most days. And I just want to document my kind of training and recovery onwards, and kind of have some sort of video record of how I'm improving and I guess how I'm feeling from day to day, so I actually have something to look back on in case I forget all of it. And I guess the third point of doing all of this is there just aren't enough cases that I can find online where anyone who's had cancer has really documented it nearly, well, not well enough, but not being able to document it, or they've obviously been far too ill to actually make some sort of record for other people to read and maybe get a bit of knowledge about. I had nothing to go by the first time, or really the second time that I was ill. Had nothing to draw from. I couldn't find anyone else's experiences or insights on how to deal with stuff. There's all very wishy-washy alternative medicine nonsense that I couldn't even stand. You know, I didn't want to hedge my bets and, you know, switch to alternatives when I could have had, you know, proven ways of dealing with all the symptoms and side effects and the good and bad and the worst parts of treatment and what to do and what not to do, just because there wasn't that advice out there really. I didn't see that as an excuse to start taking a mumbo jumbo like homeopathy and switch to paleo diet, or only eat raw vegetables, or cut out all meat proteins, stuff like that. Not that I'm any expert in nutrition, but I know what works for me now. I'm definitely not one to talk about sticking to a perfect diet though. Not that it's terrible. That was another thing that was really bad up until a couple of months ago, which is luckily now almost completely gone. My saliva glands weren't the only thing to be affected by the radiotherapy, obviously, and the chemo would have already affected this anyway, even if the radiotherapy hadn't. But the radiotherapy almost completely destroyed my sense of taste. If only it had just been that everything tasted nothing. But some things tasted okay, some things tasted normal, but the vast majority of what I ate tasted absolutely repulsive. Not talking about this metallic taste that everyone talks about from chemo. We're talking sweet stuff tasted sour, salt didn't register on my palate anymore, most meats tasted slightly sweet, as if they were kind of off or rancid. I love things like gherkins and olives, but they tasted incredibly sharp. I couldn't drink orange juice or generally anything citric or anything with vinegar in it because it made me feel sick. Even just thinking about it's making me feel my tongue actually remembers what that taste did to my stomach. But yeah, there's no workaround as far as I know for the taste changes from radiotherapy. I'm glad I didn't really know at the time, because it's that kind of thing that can give you a real fear, I think. Yeah, that's not something I think I can go through again. But luckily, actually, I don't think I have to. I said, when I went to the Royal Marsden Cancer Centre, absolutely incredible place. Really, really high-tech treatment down in the basement for radiotherapy. Treatment and kind of, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, the dose of radiotherapy I had, as I mentioned earlier when I was in the park, it is the kind of dose I was saying they have to work out exactly how much to give someone based on their age, weight, fitness, that kind of thing. It is so close to the maximum that the body can tolerate that it's kind of double-edged sword. It's too much for the cancer to possibly survive. It's also only just about as much as the body can take. So they basically said I'll never be able to have radiotherapy on my neck again. And that kind of leads on to another thing I said before. The radiotherapy is high enough, or high dose enough, that it can lead to secondary form of cancer in the future, quite a way in the future. But yeah, I think the dose I had was 20 gray, which is 20 doses of 3 or 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes every day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks in a row. And 4 out of 5 of each of those days I cycled uphill all the way, luckily in the middle of summer, so good for me. It was warm, bad for the nurses and technicians that I turned up basically as I'm now, Kingston Wheeler shorts, sweaty base layer, silly cap, and even sillier helmet. I'm sure at some point I'll end up working out, or trying to work out, whether that did me good or whether it was a bit more punishment than my body needed. I've got a feeling if I hadn't ridden through that month of radiotherapy, my fitness might have dropped off that a little bit too much, and then who knows, I may not be here now, I may be here now, but I may not have cycled nearly as much as I have in the last 5 months. Who knows? Almost at the top of this climb. Tell you what, it's maybe a combined effect of the insane intensity of Sunday's ride, and I mean it really was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. It was like a proper crit Cat 4 race. But keeping my mind off this effort while talking, and having done that ride as tough as it was, I'm feeling pretty good. My heart rate's a lot lower than it usually is, but only my mouth wasn't totally dry. Oh, that's better. I think I'm very close to the top now, and as soon as I get to the top, I'll call it a day on this first episode. The following ones I think are going to be focused a lot more on training, or the training aspect of my last 5 years, and kind of the current state of my fitness, which has been at the kind of forefront of my mind for, I've lost track of how many weeks and months. But yeah, I do much more spiky, spicy workout with some sprints, some out of the saddle efforts, and see how my concentration goes when I'm talking and basically breathing out my bum. This is not high intensity at all, but it's a good start. Well, almost there. 16k, 10 miles, and 600 feet of climbing in 36 minutes. Not terrible. 26k an hour. An amazing view of the mountain there. I don't think I've actually ever seen that before. So, hey, and I got a new PR and a ride on. Feel good. Oh, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. I've never seen that before. 2 years of using Zwift. I need to use this free cam mode a little bit more. It's pretty spectacular. Nice. And yeah, I can't remember. Maybe I've set this in just 1080. But this TV goes up to 4K. So maybe for some of the shorter, like 20-minute or half-hour sections, I'll spice things up with a bit of 4K, get some Ultra HD going on. Well, I think it's time I signed off and focused on what I was doing, but I'll hopefully do one of these every other day. With little updates about silly things that only a cyclist would think about, like daily updates on body weight and fat content and FTP and how I'm feeling and if I'm still in love with my bike or not. And yeah, I'll see what else I can dig out of my mind from the last 6 years. I'm pretty sure the next 6 months is not going to be easy, but I've got a feeling it's going to help me. Alright, anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Andy, aka Honey Badger. The reason for that will be revealed sooner or later. There's a not very interesting reason for it, but there is a reason for it. The longer time goes on, the more pointless it seems, but it started off with a very good reason, and now it's just a silly nickname. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this is some use to any other cancer patients, athletes, or just people who want to learn something about an illness I've somehow managed to overcome now, the third time. And yeah, hopefully it can help someone overcome it even once. That'll be worth it. Okay, I'm going to pause this for a minute and have a good glug of water. Bye.